Hello viewers, welcome to APPSC. Today we are going to discuss about right to die. So whether there is a right to die in India, what is this concept of right to die, which is synonymous like right to life and personal liberty, which is guaranteed as a fundamental right. So what are the countries that are allowing right to peaceful death, and what are the countries which are not allowing this? What are the issues in this, whether if you have to allow these things, if you have to allow, in what situations or circumstances you have to allow, and if you should not allow these things, and what are the moral and ethical obligations which may arise in case if you are allowing these right to deaths and all. So how suicides can be increased, and how which sections of the society can become more vulnerable if right to die becomes a legal right. Like these are the aspects which we are going to discuss as part of today's video. The main concept is euthanasia. You might have heard about euthanasia. Euthanasia is a term which means good death, means painless death. Okay, so why painless death means, for some example, some person, okay, so he may undergo into coma, and for long, since many years he may be under coma. So at that time, that person who is under vegetative state, that person may not, if there is a word by the doctor that he will not recover in the future, so that person has to undergo physical and mental things, no, being idle in the coma. So even the relatives or the family also cannot have him for long on the bed itself, and the person also have to go medically, so many things. So these are not making his life easy. So in those situations, some people opine that this euthanasia type of thing, where you are actively or passively killing the person with a good right to die, so these things should be allowed. On the other side, some people, critics, are saying if you are allowing euthanasia, it will automatically increase the rate of deaths. So if you see in this instance, what we are discussing is, in the recent times in Netherlands, a 28-year-old woman, so who is suffering from depression, autism and borderline personality disorder. So after prolonged treatment, what she decided is she wants to take up euthanasia because there is no recovery from these problems what she is facing. So she was only a 28-year-old girl. So here you have to understand, if these type of things happen, so then it is becoming a legal right to suicide, no? This automatically increases the rate of suicides in the country. And interestingly, if you have seen, in 2022 in Netherlands, where the euthanasia is given as a legal right, almost after all deaths, if you count all the deaths in Netherlands, these type of euthanasia related deaths account to 5%. That means these are not happening in very rare instances. It is happening in a frequent way. So whenever there is no treatment or whenever there is no ray of hope, many of the people are taking this way of euthanasia. So in this context, it is very much important to know what is euthanasia, what types of euthanasia we have, which are the countries that are allowing euthanasia as a legal right, and where it is not allowed, and where it is like a crime in India, if you have seen. So what are the legal interventions with respect to euthanasia in India by Supreme Court of India, and what are the positives and negatives, whether they should be allowed or not allowed. All these things will be discussing in this video. So here, let's start. So here, if you see what is euthanasia, euthanasia means a good death. Okay, so there should be right to death and right to die with dignity. This is what Supreme Court said. Okay, this should be also a fundamental right to die with dignity. Okay, so here do remember YA news, then active assistance dying legislation of France. This is also in the news. If you have remembered, recently France has given a constitutional right of abortion also. So in this context, you need to know when these type of questions can be expected. Okay, so when some country has given for the first time, and if you have remembered, recently Thailand also became another Asian country to recognize same-sex marriages. So these type of questions can be expected in state PCS or even in UPSC also. So France has given active assistance, means they have allowed active euthanasia in their country. At the same time, you will understand what is euthanasia, what is the status of euthanasia in India. Then we have arguments in favor, arguments against, legal provisions. At the same time, what are the related court judgments and way forward. So if you have seen GS paper 1 prelims, it is important because some international events attached, okay, of having international importance can be asked in prelims. So then why in news, as I told you, 28-year-old Netherlands girl or woman, so she was undergoing euthanasia because she was not able to recover recover from depression, autism and other mental illness. Okay, so here what is the main thing you have to keep in mind is countries like Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg, Germany as well as Spain. Okay, now France is also allowing assisted active euthanasia. So these countries are allowing euthanasia in their countries. It is not a crime, okay, if you undergo euthanasia in these countries. Then what is the active assistance dying of legislation of France? This was in the news. So what is active assistance means? Here euthanasia means good death, as I told you. But in case of this euthanasia also, we have two types of things. One is active, another one we have is passive. Active means what happens here? It is aggressive, you can say. That means lethal injections, lethal doses or drugs will be given so that actively, that means faster, in a fast way, you are going to kill that person, okay, so that he will be relieved from these pains or illness. So this is what active euthanasia. So this was being given by the France as a matter of right. Then in passive euthanasia, here the whatever the life support system is provided to the patient or the food or the medicines, these things will be stopped so that the person will die in a time. So this will be time taking process. It is a slow process and this is considered in India. Okay, this is not a crime in India, but this is a crime in India. This is illegal in India as of now. This is not considered as a proper right in India. So these are the aspects which you need to know. Then what is euthanasia? As I told you, act of deliberately ending your life in case if you are not able to come out of any medical illness or not. So in these situations, some people who are having prolonged illness and there is no ray of hope from the recovery, those persons are undergoing euthanasia, which is nothing but right to die with dignity, okay, or painless death, you can say. But what happened in this case is whatever the people who are propounding this ethics or any persons who is advocating or who are not in favor of euthanasia, they are saying that there should be some difference, and even if you allow euthanasia, it doesn't only allow euthanasia, it always includes more number of suicides or it will encourage more number of people to commit suicide. So right to die with dignity should not be recognized as a right. Some people opine like this. Okay, so what is your opinion? Try to answer in the comment section. And also, if you know what is the country that has given for the first time euthanasia rights, answer in the comment section. So then we have two types of euthanasia. So in active euthanasia, as I told you, lethal injections or doses will be given so that person will die in an easy and quick way. So actively, non-aggressive, you can say. But on the other side, we have passive euthanasia, which is non-aggressive. And as I told you, life support system, food, water or medicine or whatever it is required for his continuation, all those things can be taken so that the person will die slowly. So these passive euthanasia is allowed in India, but active euthanasia is considered as a crime in India. But some countries like we have discussed, Belgium, Netherlands, Germany, Spain, France, these countries also have recognized active euthanasia. So then we should understand what is the status of euthanasia in India. As I told you, passive euthanasia is legal because what happened in 2018 Common Cause versus Union of India case, which is also famous as Aruna Shanbaug case. Okay, she was a nurse who undergone almost medical treatment on like coma like situation almost for 30-40 years. At the age of 60s, she was given euthanasia. In that particular case only, Supreme Court has said that right to die with dignity is also integral part of Article 21, right to life and personal liberty, and passive euthanasia can be allowed in India. So this is a landmark case with respect to euthanasia you have to keep in mind. Then with respect to active euthanasia, where you are aggressively ending the person's life, so this was not considered legal as in India. Okay, so and also because Indian Penal Code, so if you are actively participating and you are trying to aggressively end the person's life, then it is nothing but an act of murder or suicide. So Indian Penal Code under 306 and 307, these sections 309 and 306, okay, so these sections are criminalizing suicide, right? But later on it was decriminalized, but still, okay, so this will increase the suicidal tendencies. That is why India did not recognize active euthanasia. Then what are the positives in favor of euthanasia means? So some persons or patients who are facing these medical issues from long, okay, so they should have some end to this pain and all. So in that way, euthanasia can be seen as a solution. Then we have these persons respecting their choice also. So when they have right to life, right to die with dignity also should be there. In that way, euthanasia can be considered as correct. Then treatment of others. For example, if this person is beyond recovery, then if you end that person's life, the same medical resources or money or other resources can be used for treatment of other persons who have the scope of recovery. So this is another way. And dignified death, as I told you in Aruna Shanbaug case, Supreme Court itself has opined right to die with dignity is integral part of right to life and personal liberty. Then addressing the mental agony. So when they are suffering, they will also have this mental agony, and their patients, relatives also will have mental agony. So those things can be sorted out if you are allowing euthanasia. But what are the negatives? Because it is a violation of medical ethics, right? Doctors' main responsibility is to save the lives or protect the lives of the patients. But instead, if they are only asked to give lethal doses to end the person's life, it is complete violation of medical ethics, right? So that is the first main thing. Then it is moral wrong also to end the person's life. Then it doesn't differentiate. If you are allowing euthanasia, it doesn't differentiate between suicide and euthanasia. So they will increase, these rates will increase in the future. Then vulnerable people will be more susceptible, right? So the people, for example, if you have seen in the case of France, as I told you, assisted active dying is permitted now, but they have given some conditions that people who are minors or the people who are suffering from neurological disorders like Parkinson or any other thing, okay, Alzheimer's, all these things, because they don't have that mental ability to decide whether they have to die or not. No? So those patients are exempted from giving the active euthanasia, minors and the people who are suffering from neurological disorders like this. Because the people who are vulnerable means, for example, people who are mentally retarded or disabled, so these persons can be easily subjected to euthanasia in case if it is allowed. So this is against euthanasia. Then what are the sections that are dealing with euthanasia in Indian Penal Code is section 306 and 309 of IPC. Although they are not directly related, but these provisions are governing the suicidal provisions. Okay, so suicide was once a crime in India, but now it was decriminalized. So in this context, you should know the state of Maharashtra versus Maruti Shripati Dalbal case in 1987. What they have recognized in this case is, for the first time, Supreme Court said right to die. This is an integral part of Article 21, right to life. Okay, this was said in this particular case. Then in Gyankur versus State of Punjab case 1996, what did they say? Article 21, which includes right to life, doesn't include right to die. So they said it doesn't include right to die. Then in Naresh Sakar versus another Union of India case 1994, they have differentiated between what is a suicide and what is a euthanasia. So they have given the differentiation between what is suicide and euthanasia in this particular case. In this, we have to remember these main cases, and most important case is 2018 Aruna Shanbaug case. Then what is the way forward? Always, okay, so these type of situations or euthanasia type of conditions should only be resorted to the persons who are having no scope of recovery. So it should not be used very often. It should not be given to the people, like for example, in this case we have seen 28-year-old woman who is suffering from depression. So in their age is very young and they cannot end their lives in this way, right? So only those people who are medically very ill for prolonged periods and all, in those situations it should be sparingly used. Otherwise it should not become a measure to kill themselves. Okay, so this should be the way forward. So what is the practice question given yesterday? Which of the following is not the disputed area? The answer here is Doklam is disputed, Galvan we have, Depsan veins also we have, and we have Lipurek. So this is a disputed area between India and Nepal. It is not between India and China. So what is the practice question given today? If Parliament enacts a law that threatens the fundamental rights of an individual, which of the following articles can be used by the Supreme Court to declare it void? So this is the option. You have 13, 21, 26 and 368. Among the options, which is the correct one? Choose and answer in the comment section. Then what is the mains question? Examine the scope of fundamental rights in the light of Puttaswamy versus Union of India judgment. Okay, you know this is a landmark judgment with respect to right to privacy. So in this context, you should understand what is the scope of fundamental rights. Okay, so how Article 21 was being widely interpreted by Supreme Court, all these things you have to discuss in the mains question. As we have reached the end of the video, today we have discussed about what is the concept of euthanasia, what are the forms of euthanasia, in what countries it is a legal right and in what countries it is a crime, and what is the stand of Supreme Court with respect to euthanasia in India, what are the legal provisions, along with practice question for prelims and mains. So these are the aspects which we have discussed in the video. I hope you found this video informative.